The message of Pope Leo for the 34th World Day of the Sick, which falls each year on the 11th of February, the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, invites the Church to once again contemplate the figure of the Good Samaritan as a great model of compassion. This familiar gospel parable continues to challenge us to examine how we respond to suffering in our midst. For us in Ireland, reflecting on this message is a call to rediscover the heart of Christian charity and to measure ourselves honestly against it. At the centre of the Holy Father's message is the realization that authentic charity begins in encounter with others. The Samaritan, when he encounters a man injured on the roadside, does not stop to analyse the situation or defer responsibility to someone else, but approaches the person before him and allows himself to be moved by his suffering. In our culture, increasingly shaped by haste and distraction, this willingness to pause and to be present is countercultural. Pope Leo reminds us that offering our presence to those who suffer is not an optional extra, but lies at the very heart of Christian discipleship. In a society where indifference or the focus on productivity can render the weak invisible, the Church is called to witness to a different way, a way that refuses to pass by on the other side. Compassion in the gospel sense is never abstract. It is active, concrete, and personal. The Samaritan gives his time, his care, his resources, and ultimately something of himself. Pope Leo reminds us that true charity involves the gift of one's presence and also participation in others' suffering or loss. This understanding has profound implications for healthcare, pastoral care, and family life. To care for the sick and suffering is not simply to provide services, but to affirm their dignity, to restore their hope, and to accompany them in their vulnerability. Significantly, the Holy Father situates care for the sick within a wider social and ecclesial context. He describes it as a genuine action of the Church and a measure of a society's moral health. This observation invites a searching examination of conscience for us here in Ireland. A society, as the Christian tradition insists, can be judged by how it treats its weakest members: the sick, the elderly, the unborn, the addicted, the poor, and the hungry. When we look honestly at our reality, troubling signs emerge. Loneliness, rising suicide rates, the widespread acceptance of abortion, the growing acceptance of euthanasia, the treatment of immigrants, and the scourge of drug and alcohol abuse all point to deeper wounds within our social fabric. These are not isolated issues. They are symptoms of an ailing society that too often fails to protect, accompany, and cherish those who are most vulnerable. Pope Leo reminds us that our love of neighbour is the visible proof of our love for God. The two are inseparable. Christian faith cannot be reduced to words, rituals, or private devotion alone. It finds its fulfilment in concrete service. To serve the suffering neighbour is to worship God in reality. A truly Christian lifestyle, therefore, is marked by a Samaritan spirit that is welcoming, courageous, and committed. It is rooted in love of God and expressed in compassionate care for those who are sick, elderly, and afflicted. As chair of the Council for Healthcare, I am deeply grateful for the countless healthcare workers, carers, priests, chaplains, volunteers, and family members across Ireland who embody this Samaritan spirit every day. Their quiet fidelity gives living witness to the gospel. Yet the Pope's message urges all of us, church and society alike, to go further and to build a community where compassion is not the exception but the norm, and where no one is left abandoned on the roadside.